Alrighty, welcome back everybody, Exploring Metal with Ryan Acidheads Murphy here, and we're going to be looking at 90s and beyond. Basically, we're going to get the last episode, the last two episodes of this, we went through the 80s and the many different branches of heavy metal that started developing in the late 70s and then throughout the 80s. Now we're going to get into stuff from the 90s, and just some general recommendations for stuff from the 90s and beyond that I happen to enjoy, and you might as well. Because hopefully if you've been following along to these videos, then you should have kind of built up your exposure to heavy metal, and you can start kind of looking into various subgenres and just see what you happen to like. So we're going to start with kind of right at the end of the 80s and into the 90s, you start getting the influence of electronic music on heavy metal. And that's taking place all over the world. So, for example, here in the United States, you have the Ministry. They were during the 80s, they were kind of a, one of those weird dancey but kind of dark electronica groups, kind of like Cure, that sort of stuff. But in the 90s, they started combining electronic influences with heavy metal. They went in a very different direction. So, for Ministry, you've got things like Psalm 69, NWO, Thieves. These are all some Ministry songs. You've also got KMFDM, who they don't use a lot of heavy metal, but there are some heavy metal influences in there. You can check out like Megalomaniac would be the kind of the classic one. Strum und Drang is a good one. DIY is an interesting one. So Ministry, KMFDM, in like Germany in the 90s, you've got Rammstein, which is kind of being influenced by the likes of Kraftwerk, but also heavy metal influences and industrial metal influences. So you've got like Rammstein is the song, as well as the band. They have a song called Rammstein as well. And let me go ahead and bring up my playlist here and get some Rammstein songs that you can check out. So yeah, Rammstein, the song Wollt ihr das Bett in Flammen sehen? I'm probably butchering the pronunciations on this. Du riechst so gut. Asche zu Asche, du hast Ingel, weißes Fleisch, heirate mich. And you got like Sona, Links 234, Ich will, Firefly, Reise, Reise, Mein Teil, America, Ohne dich. Some of their newer stuff. Well, not really. That's from 2004. They've got newer stuff than that. But if you want to check out some Rammstein, there you go. There's some songs. And then, of course, Nine Inch Nails. Nine Inch Nails, Marilyn Manson. You're starting to see those influences of electronica and heavy metal coming together. With like Nine Inch Nails, March of the Pigs. Let me see. What do I got? Playlist-wise. Closer. Head Like a Hole, Perfect Drug. There'll be some Nine Inch Nails you can check out. And then again, I mentioned Anthrax and kind of introducing rap into heavy metal. They may not have been the very first ones to do it, but they were the first ones to do it and go mainstream. And I think that was actually happening more in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. So let me see if I can find those. It's Who's the Man and Bring the Noise would be those two. But you also have the Beastie Boys, No Sleep Till Brooklyn, Fight for Your Right to Party, Sabotage, combining metal and rap together. A bit later on, you'll find that Cypress Hill does it somewhat. So, you know, and then of course, later in the 90s, you've got Korn and nu metal with, you know, Korn and I can't remember the name of the group now. The dude with the red hat that's such a prick. Did several songs for WWE, like Undertaker's biker theme, Rollin'. Can't remember the name of the group off the top of my head. Weird. It's not that big a deal. So you've got that sort of stuff that was going on throughout the 90s. Then you also have grunge music, which some would consider more rock than metal, but, you know, it's close enough that I'll include it. So the thing about grunge is that it was a response to 80s hair metal, pop metal, the decadence, the over-the-top production look, and the overproduced everything. Grunge was trying to go back to basics, basically. So you've got, of course, Nirvana is the obvious one with Smells Like Teen Spirit. Not one of my favorites, honestly. I prefer... let me go over here to my 90s playlist. So... And then you also have, like, Green Day with moving into the kind of the pop-punk thing, but that's its own thing. So Alice in Chains, you know, with Rooster, Angry Chair, We Die Young, Man in the Box, Them Bones, I Stay Away, Bleed the Freak. Let's see. Again, Guns N' Roses wasn't really grunge. It wasn't really hair metal. It was right there at the end of the 80s and into the early 90s where you're getting kind of that mix between the two of Guns N' Roses just wanting to do a heavy metal album, but still influenced by hair metal. Jane's Addiction, Jane Says, is a pretty good one. That's a bit more alternative than metal, though. Limp Bizkit, that's the group with break stuff. A bit later on. Pearl Jam, 10, the entire album. Just listen to the album 10. Then you got Rage Against the Machine, another crossover between rap and metal, with like Bulls on Parade, and again, Evil Empire. Just listen to Evil Empire, the entire album. You know, Soundgarden, all of their stuff, Jesus Christ Pose, Outshined, Rusty Cage, The Day I Tried to Live, Fell on Black Days, Pretty Noose, Stone Temple Pilots, Vaseline Down, Wicked Garden Plush, Interstate Love Song, Sex Type Thing, any of those, any or in all of them. You also have stuff like Sugar Ray, early Sugar Ray. I'm talking about the album Floored here, and everything except for the one song, I Just Want to Fly. It's the only song on the album that sounds like that. And you have a lot, again, that kind of mix of punk and metal. Smashing Pumpkins, you're getting kind of that grunge, alternative sound in there. Bullet with Butterfly Wings, 1979, Zero. 311, you're getting, and Sublime, you're getting that ska thing, and early No Doubt. You know, that combination of punk, heavy metal, reggae from the LA area, from California. Then you start getting things like goth metal with Typo Negative. Black Number One is my favorite song of theirs. Then you also have White Zombie coming in with a kind of horror metal, which is influenced by Misfits, which was horror music. with White Zombie, you got like Welcome to Planet Motherfucker, Thunder Kiss, Electric Head. Basically, the entire Astro Creep 2000 album is great. Just listen to that album. Then you also have like Red Hot Chili Peppers, again, kind of that ska thing, mixing some elements of funk and reggae and heavy metal and punk and just all sorts of mixing up going on. You know, 90s was all about mixing genres. It was alternative music, grunge music, taking all these influences that people had from different parts of their, from different genres and mixing it in and see what happens. So trying to classify 90s metal and what was or what is and is not considered heavy metal or influenced by metal, I'm not going to go there. There was a ton of great music from the 90s that came out, and I'm not saying that just because that was kind of my era, being born in the 80s. But you get all sorts of great music coming out in the 90s. Heavy metal branches off. It gets mixed up with all sorts of different things. You've got like Dropkick Murphys mixing punk metal and folk, Irish folk music. And you also have that going on with other groups. You have some interesting ones. What is that one group? I know I've got them here. Hold on just a second, I'll find them. Is that the one? Yeah, Ace Dana, I believe, is a French folk metal group. Actually, I think they're Irish. Can't remember. But yeah, you start seeing all sorts of different mixing and matching and heavy metal and other things being mixed together in the 90s. Again, folk metal and electric metal and industrial metal with Pantera. I mean, you can't talk about 90s metal and not talk about Pantera. You know, any Pantera album is going to be pretty damn good, but I mean, if you want just kind of my short list: Cowboys from Hell, Cemetery Gates, Domination, 5 Minutes Alone, I'm Broken, Walk, Fucking Hostile. Yeah, that would be my kind of my short list for Pantera songs to check out. I talked about White Zombie. You can also talk a little bit about Powerman 5000, sci-fi metal. Then you can also talk about probably one of the most unique bands of all time, Primus. Not really heavy metal, but there are heavy metal influences in there. So, My Name is Mud, Jerry Was a Race Car Driver, Tommy the Cat, Winona's Big Brown Beaver, Shake Hands with Beef are all some songs that I have in this particular playlist. You want like an 80s hair metal group that actually was more heavy metal than hair metal, Skid Row, 18 in Life, I Remember You, and Youth Gone Wild would be good ones to check out. You also have guys like maybe this isn't so much 90s, but maybe a bit later on, but Necromantics. Dead Girls Don't Cry, Life is a Grave, and Life is a Grave, and I Dig It. Who Killed the Cheerleader? Some of the songs in this playlist, and that's a mix of heavy metal, horror punk, and swing music, which actually works really well. I like them. Let's see. Then you also have kind of where black metal starts meeting and morphing into extreme metal, Cradle of Filth and Dimmu Borgir. So, like Cradle of Filth, you got well, these are older songs, so Cradle of Filth, Her Ghost in the Fog is one of my favorite songs of theirs. Let me see, let me bring up Cradle right quick. You can check out some of their other songs. I went right past them, didn't I? Come on. Come on. I know you're right here. There we go. So, from Midian is a concept album based on the movie Nightbreed. So Her Ghost in the Fog from that one, Lord Abortion, is a good one. It's disturbing, but it's a song about a serial killer, so it's not going to be fun. Let's see. Yeah, From the Cradle to Enslave is a good one. Dusk in Her Embrace, Beneath the Howling Stars, The Twisted Nails of Faith. Those are all good ones to check out. You want some of their later stuff, you can look at see, Mannequin is a good one. Thank God for the Suffering from Nymphetamine. Nymphetamine Overdose is my preference. Nemesis is a pretty good one. Coffin Fodder is pretty good. English Fire is pretty good. So yeah, those are all good ones for Dimmu Borgir. Blood Hunger Doctrine, Reptile, The Insight and the Catharsis are some of my favorites of theirs. And again, that's kind of black metal, but morphing more into its own thing and becoming extreme metal. From there, you can also talk about some progressive metal. And Queensryche, Operation Mindcrime would be a good one. Fate's Warning, A Pleasant Shade of Grey is a good one. Opeth is where you kind of meet prog metal and extreme metal, depending on the album, because Opeth has actually done an entirely acoustic, I think it's entirely acoustic, album. Opeth does their own thing. If you want to check out some different heavy metal, check out Opeth, because every single album is going to be different. I really like the group Sonata Arctica. This is power metal I'm talking about here, so let me find. There we go. So I really like the album Songs of Silence live in Tokyo, because it has a lot of really good songs and it's live. And I actually prefer Sonata Arctica. I find their albums to be a bit overproduced. The live stuff I prefer. So Songs of Silence live in Tokyo, Web Allergy, Kingdom for a Heart, Full Moon, My Land, Wolf and Raven. The entire album is great. Those are just some of the ones I've got here in this playlist that I'm looking at. Also Stratovarius, Speed of Light, Twilight Symphony, two of my favorites of theirs. Avantasia, Twisted Mind, Scarecrow. Again, this is power metal. Yeah, I mean, that's just some of the stuff that I enjoy. I mean, you can also go in for, it just depends on what you find you like. If you like the darker death metal type stuff, you know, then just look up death metal and start checking out some bands. You know, this is the part where I have to say that I've taken you as far along the journey as I can in this format, because I wanted to do it kind of within around 20-25 minute videos or less, and just kind of touch bases and help you understand the history of heavy metal and get some exposure to the various types of music and bands and songs that built up throughout the years and started branching off into their own genres. And then, you know, here I was just giving you a bunch of recommendations, basically, of stuff that I personally really enjoy. And if you find that you don't like any of that stuff, but maybe you like some of the really, really harsh sounding stuff, then you might want to check out some things like grindcore. Personally, I can't stand grindcore, but maybe you'll like it. I mean, there are dozens of different subgenres within heavy metal. It's just a matter of finding what appeals to you the most. And if you think that you can't possibly enjoy any heavy metal, you just have to give it a chance. It's just like any other genre of music. You know, if you don't at least give it a chance, you'll never know. So, thanks very much for listening. I hope I've given you some ideas and helped you, start looking into heavy metal as a type of music that if perhaps you've never explored before, you've never really listened to it, never given it a chance. I hope you will now. Thank you very much one more time for listening. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.